kind of like, hey, listen, Ralph, the DJ, he quit on us. Me and Jimmy, we can't run it. We can't cover all the shifts. Ralph is just gone. He's MIA, and I'm offering you a chance to take his shifts. We need your help here. I know you don't live here, but figure out a way. Think about it. So, long story short, talked about it with my family. Had a baby daughter, and I needed to look into this opportunity because I knew there was money in it, good pay from my previous time. But this was going to be different. This was going to be real staff. I'm not a do boy here. Now I'm really, I'm DJing. I'm really, managing, and this is a position of power, so to speak. And so we figured it out. So what I wound up doing was I drove all the way to Hialeah, Miami every Saturday morning to start a noon shift, work from 12 to 9 p.m., and then hung out on Saturday night and did that all by myself. Just there was not much staff. He kept a very small staff. And then we were closed on Sunday. I did the same thing on Monday. And then on Tuesday, Jimmy, the other day manager, would be in there, and he would stick around and be a second helping hand. Just because it gets progressively busier as the week goes on. So that was fine. I had no problem with that. And I was lucky. I had two friends that actually let me sleep on their floor, their couch, while I stacked money. I couldn't move my family right away. So this was a long-term plan. Like, let's see how this worked out. And I did very well at the job and made a splash, and I took music seriously, and I knew how to deal with these girls and speak with them and talk to them and treat them right. And this is one area I learned to manage very well. And so I was given Wednesday, and then I was given Thursday, and then I was given Friday. And before I knew it, I was working 6 days a week, minimum 54 hours in this club. And it really started to, it consumed me, and it definitely had an effect on life. And me and Tony got closer and closer. And this was a guy who was insistent upon me hanging out. A, I always had the weed, and B, he liked having a buddy. So he's feeding me drinks, and I'm drinking all night for free and whatever, and this and that. And you could be having worse times in your life. Trust me, plenty of people are. Go ask the guy who works at fucking Mailman Joey's. He probably wants to put a gun in his mouth. But that being said, there were times I didn't want to be there, and this guy would literally T-bone my car, literally not let me leave. I had to put in an hour of party time before I was allowed to leave the premises. And there was no choice because his car was blocking mine in. He would, he worked at night, so he'd come on the shift change and he would fuck me like that. So that was pretty fun. There's so many stories that take place at Porky's while I was there. Do we have some photos? Are you able to show any of those? We have I don't even know. Maybe I didn't give you any of the Porky's ones or whatever. No, I don't think I did. Okay. You'll be able to go and check those out. I'm going to post all the photos that we don't show in this little slide kind of thingy that we did. But we put a little collage together of some of what you're going to hear. I think it's all Panama, pretty much, whatever. So this was a hood rat club. So the thing about Porky's was this club was I think everyone would agree that it was a lot more 6s and 7s. These weren't 10s, and these weren't the girls you saw on TV and the typical cliche. These were round the way hood rat girls, and they were low down. And everything that you think you heard in all the cliches are real. They do exist. Girls do have sex in the VIP room. Yes. Girls are putting things in drinks to get over. Yes. Management in places does overcharge customers. Yes. Everybody's getting over. It's that kind of business. Everybody's getting over. Everyone's getting drunk. There's a lot of other drugs, and everybody's inebriated. And I mean customers and dancers and whatnot, and perhaps some of the staff. And everybody is kind of doing this dance of just money exchanging and how much can you get and take advantage of that sloppy person or whatever. I think this happens in all clubs of all levels, by the way. But I think it's management's job to try to curtail that from being as shitty as possible. So that fantasy that everybody hopes it is when they walk into these places. I will say, so here's an interesting anecdote. One thing about Tony was he definitely wanted things his way, and he would send a message any way he had to. So, and I'm going to sanitize this a little bit, but one particular day, and this was toward the end of the whole Porky's era. So here's an interesting story. Get a picture of this. So Tony decides that he has a girly friend that works at the club, and they're pretty cool. And that girly friend gets into it with another dancer who decides to blow smoke in her face from her cigarette. And she didn't like that. She didn't like that. So she goes and tells Tony, and Tony's basically really pissed about it. And so pretty much hatches a plan that we're going to have two dancers. Well, he's going to have two of his night girls are going to get revenge on this girl. He's going to show up one day and they're going to get theirs. And so he started showing up more and more once he had this girl in his life on my shift. And he would get drunk a lot and hang out. And they would hang out. And one particular day, the two night girls were there. And that's when I knew this was on. This was going to happen. And he needed me to call that dancer. And her dancer name was Desiree. Desiree was one of my better girls on my shift. And he calls Desiree to the back. Or he has me call Desiree on the microphone to the back, to the dressing room. And I didn't want to do that. I mean, I did not want to do that because I knew what was coming. And Desiree, I think, had an idea because she knew those girls were there. They weren't going out on the floor. But I think she had an idea. But she came to the back anyways, and she said, "Hey, what's up?" And I said, "Tony needs you in the dressing room." And it was literally, she just was fed to the wolves. Now, a lot of people will say to me, "Well, why did you call her in the back with this, that, and the other?" Desiree was getting hers no matter what. And so that's a fact. I didn't contribute to what was going to happen. Her blowing the smoke in that girl's face contributed way more than I did. But I did have to call her to the back. And they wound up really stomping the shit out of her. They beat the shit out of her pretty badly. And Tony jumped in and he really didn't need to do this, but he also really stomped the shit out of her, and it was pretty bad. And she made her way out the back door, pretty much a bloody mess. I mean, like a scene of a fucking horror movie. And she, days later, wound up going to the sister club. And Tony's brother, who worked at that sister club, was like, we got a girl here that says she worked at your place, and she looks really bad, but she needs to work, and she's here, whatever. What do you want me to do? And he's like, let her work, this, that, and the other. Desiree was supposed to testify in court over what happened. She never did. So from what I understand, she was probably scared to do that because everything was dropped as a result. Everything was just now charged to the streets. Nothing ever happened as a result of that. And the police did come, and there was all sorts of shit after, because I think once she made it out in the street, people started calling the cops because they see this fucking basically naked, bloody girl running in the street or whatever, half naked or whatever she had still on her. And so that was one of the wonderful scenarios. Porky's is an interesting club, mainly a Latin club. A lot of violence, a lot of gunplay. With customers. Customers don't like being thrown out. Customers don't like being told they can't come back. A lot of gang banging over there, a lot of dope dealing. So it was a wild time for the years that I was there. I think somewhere around 6 years. I never put a calendar together of my start date and end date. I never thought there would be an end date. I actually walked away from the club. I had a fallout with Tony and walked away a month later, and I believe God did this, personally speaking, but a month later, the club was closed down. Miami-Dade raided the club for the final time, and Miami-Dade decided, we are not giving you your liquor license back. So you guys are done. Seidle's basically had to sell it. Bill Seidle had passed away at that point. I think he had passed away, give or take, a year. I left that out in the chronology, but he passed away about a year before Porky's was closed. His son and a vice president at Nissan, they decided to take over and try to give it a run, and they couldn't. They did a very poor job. These were car guys. These were not strip club guys. So they really didn't know what they were doing.